In a world fixated on growth and expansion, there's a quieter, more profound crisis unfolding right under our noses. It's a silent tide of decline, a demographic shift that is emptying entire regions and aging the very fabric of nations. We've all seen the headlines about overpopulation, but what if the more immediate threat isn't too many people, but too few? Imagine towns where the schools are closing because there are no children, where the last store shutters its doors, and where communities are slowly fading away, leaving behind a profound stillness. This isn't science fiction. It's the stark reality facing an increasing number of countries around the globe. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this demographic time bomb. We're not just going to list the countries with shrinking populations. We're going to explore the human stories behind the numbers. We'll uncover the economic, social, and cultural ripple effects of this trend and look at why some of the world's most advanced nations are facing a future with fewer people. This is a story about fertility, emigration, and the very definition of a nation's strength in the 21st century. This trend is driven by a number of factors. One of the most significant is modernization. As societies become more educated and urbanized, women have greater access to education and career opportunities, leading them to have fewer children and to have them later in life. Additionally, better access to contraception and a lower infant mortality rate mean people no longer need to have many children to ensure some survive to adulthood. The second major factor is emigration. In many cases, economic stagnation has led younger, educated people to leave their home countries in search of better job opportunities in wealthier nations. This creates a vicious cycle. As young people leave, the birth rate drops even further, and the tax base shrinks, placing an even greater burden on those who remain and discouraging new generations from staying. The consequences of this demographic shift are profound and far-reaching. Economically, a shrinking population means a shrinking workforce, which can stifle innovation, slow economic growth, and lead to labor shortages. It also creates a massive strain on Social Security and pension systems, as fewer working-age people are left to support a growing number of retirees. Socially and culturally, it can lead to the decline of rural communities, the closure of schools, and a loss of cultural vibrancy as traditions fade away with the aging generation. Japan, the pioneer of population decline. Japan is perhaps the most famous and visible example of a country with a rapidly shrinking population. For years, its birth rate has been well below the replacement level, and its population is one of the oldest in the world. This has created a host of unique challenges. Rural areas are dotted with thousands of ikeya, or abandoned homes, as young people flock to cities and the elderly pass away. The country's famous efficiency is now being turned toward this problem, with government-led initiatives to encourage marriage and childbearing, as well as a focus on automation and robotics to fill labor gaps. However, the deeply rooted social and economic pressures that have driven down birth rates for decades, combined with a historically low rate of immigration, make reversing this trend a monumental task. The Japanese story is a glimpse into what a nation built on a foundation of a declining population looks like, one that is both aging and innovating to survive. Italy and Southern Europe, the cultural impact of the demographic crisis. The silent crisis is particularly poignant in Italy. The country has one of the lowest birth rates in the world, and its population is aging rapidly. This is a story of economics and culture. High youth unemployment has led many young Italians to delay marriage and children, or to move abroad entirely in search of work. This has had a profound impact on the nation's culture, with thousands of beautiful, historic villages in rural areas being slowly abandoned as the younger generations leave for the cities. The Italian government has experimented with policies offering incentives to have children, but the deep-seated economic issues and a cultural shift away from large families have made these efforts difficult. The decline in Italy is not just a demographic trend. It's a slow erosion of a way of life that has existed for centuries. Germany, the immigration solution. Germany provides a fascinating counter-narrative to the demographic crisis. For decades, its birth rate has been below the replacement level, and its native population has been in decline. However, Germany has been able to offset this decline and even maintain its population through immigration. By welcoming millions of immigrants and refugees, particularly from Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and elsewhere, the country has been able to maintain a stable workforce and a vibrant economy. This hasn't been without its social and political challenges, but it shows that a country can actively manage a demographic decline through a strategic and welcoming immigration policy. Germany's experience shows that population decline is not an insurmountable problem, but it requires a willingness to embrace change and new cultures. South Korea, the world's most extreme case? South Korea is a modern-day anomaly, holding the dubious distinction of having the world's lowest fertility rate. At just over 0.7 children per woman, the country is facing a demographic collapse unlike any other. The causes are rooted in its hyper-competitive society, exorbitant costs of raising children, immense pressure to succeed in education, and a relentless work culture that leaves little time for family. This has led to a situation where the number of births is so low that the population is projected to be cut in half by the end of the century. The South Korean government is desperately trying to reverse the trend with billions of dollars in subsidies and support for new families. But the deeply ingrained social and economic pressures have proven incredibly difficult to change. Spain, empty villages and a youth exodus. Similar to Italy, Spain's population decline is a tale of an aging society and a youth exodus. Following the 2008 financial crisis, high unemployment rates sent millions of young Spaniards abroad in search of work, and many have not returned. This has left thousands of villages, particularly in the northern regions, virtually empty, leading to the term España vaciada, or emptied Spain. The low birth rate is also tied to the economic pressures and a societal shift towards having children later in life. The Spanish government has tried to implement incentives, but the deep-rooted economic issues continue to make population decline a major concern. Greece, the legacy of a financial crisis. Greece's population decline is a direct legacy of its prolonged economic crisis. For over a decade, the country faced severe austerity, high unemployment, and a lack of economic opportunity, which led to a mass emigration of its best and brightest young people. This brain drain has had a devastating impact on the country's demographics, as the population has shrunk and aged. The combination of a low birth rate and the continuous departure of young professionals has left Greece with a significant demographic hole that will be difficult to fill. The Greek story is a powerful example of how economic turmoil can accelerate population decline and cripple a nation's future. The stories of these countries paint a picture of a global trend with significant consequences. The demographic time bomb is not just a statistical curiosity. It's a real-world force that will redefine our societies. Economically, we will see shrinking consumer markets, a lack of innovation, and an incredible strain on social safety nets. Socially and culturally, it means a loss of heritage and a breakdown of the vibrant communities that have defined nations for centuries. But the story doesn't end in despair. Countries are actively seeking solutions. Some, like Germany, have embraced immigration as a way to replenish their workforce and revitalize their societies. Others, like Japan, are investing heavily in automation and robotics, preparing for a future where machines do the work that a shrinking human workforce can no longer do. Still others are trying to create generous financial incentives for having children, hoping to reverse decades of declining birth rates. The path forward is complex and will require a deep reevaluation of what a healthy society looks like. It may not mean a return to rapid population growth, but it will mean adapting to a new reality, one where nations must find a way to maintain their economic and cultural vitality with fewer people. The trend of population decline is one of the defining challenges of our time. It's a silent, powerful force that is reshaping our world in ways we are only just beginning to understand. But as we've seen, it's not a story without hope. It's a story of resilience, innovation, and a nation's ability to adapt to a new demographic reality. The future of these nations is not predetermined. It will be defined by their ability to find creative solutions, to embrace new people and new technologies, and to redefine what it means to be a strong and prosperous country in the 21st century.